And on today's show, what are the characteristics and the approach to the baby boomer generation? Part 3 of this week's series on selling across generations with registered investment advisors and certified financial planners Rob Odell and Heather Coulter. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to InSmart, LifeSpecs, and Backroom Technician. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you.
Rob. Thank you. And listen, this is day 3, and if you have missed our show, I highly recommend that you watch these shows in succession. It'll help your tutorial experience and really give you kind of a grasp of what we're talking about. I think, actually, I had a whole idea about why we're doing this series, but now I'm convinced we're doing this series because we're learning marketing tactics right now. We're learning approaches and methodologies to 4 different segments in our population. That to me is a huge thing. It's bigger than I thought. And of course, we're getting an insight into this new technology called map minding. Wow, pretty cool.
Mind mapping.
Sorry.
Right.
Okay, now show us this first one.
Well, this is the baby boomer generation. This is your generation, Steve. It's a fun, energetic, youthful, optimistic generation. And before we get in talking about it, I'm going to show you how Cadillac sells its product to this generation.
The Wright brothers started in a garage. Amazon started in a garage. Hewlett-Packard and Disney both started in garages. Mattel started in a garage. The Ramones started in a garage. My point? You never know what kind of greatness can come out of an American garage. Introducing the 2014 Motor Trend Car of the Year, the all-new Cadillac CTS. Ain't garages great?
Ain't garages great? Love that commercial. It is. That's a baby boomer generation, a commercial for the baby boomer generation there. They're defined as people born in 1946 to 1965. I just missed the cutoff there. They're known as the we to me generation. Chances are, when you were growing up, if you're a baby boomer, there are several of you around the table. You're meant to be seen, but not heard from. Mom and Dad would never call you special.
Special, yeah. Unless they said, are you special? You think you're special or something? That's when
you're acting up, trying to get attention for yourself. So let's define some of the characteristics that are unique to this generation. The older generation was the most affluent generation. This generation is the most influential. So president, vice president, members of Congress, CEOs, people who are running today's society, majority of them are in this generation. Some of the characteristics is that they're eternally young. They're optimistic. They're driven. The older generation was known for the work ethic. These are workaholics. It's not uncommon to see them work 60, 70 hours a week. And how do they compensate their families? Take them on killer vacations. Now, there's several things that are very unique about this generation. Number one is they're friends with their children. We see that all the time, in that they are texting, they're talking to their adult children, and they're their friends. Whereas with my relation to my parents, I love them, but they don't necessarily my best friends, if you will. The other thing is their view of retirement, entirely different.
They want to be engaged in life. So a lot of them have encore careers, or they're very much involved in volunteering or charitable work. But they don't just hang it up like the traditional generation did.
Have you known as registered investment advisors with your clients, you see the boomer generation, they're doing this new hybrid retirement, work and
they like to stay active. They're living longer, they're feeling better, they're more healthy, more health conscious.
You think about it, they're growing up in time of America where America was becoming affluent and new things were happening to them, and they have a sense of optimism that my generation, our generation, does not have. And so they like to be engaged in life. They like to be involved with their children. They like to volunteer. It's a fun generation. And from our perspective, when they show up in our office, it's different than the older generation.
Yes, because the wife comes and she's much more engaged. And so when we start talking about the life goals and the objectives and things that they want to do, maybe even their bucket list, so to speak, she's got so much to say because she's the one that's actually caring for that elderly parent because she's the oldest daughter. Or she's got children that are in college or moving back in home from college. Plus there's retirement with her husband going on. So there's just so many moving parts going on with her.
Now, when you take the potpourri of all these characteristics, right, do you have a tactical way, as a registered investment advisor in CFP, do you have a tactical way to approach these boomers because of these characteristics?
Yes, you definitely want to respect their time. They're very more time conscious. So they don't want to be your best friend all the time. They want to know you and engage in you, make sure that you get them. But they're not going to show up to all of those seminars. And they're more comfortable with technology than the older traditional generation is.
And so we'll use mind mapping as a technique or a tactic, if you will, which is similar to this, is we'll work off large screen TVs, we put it up there, the different aspects of their life, all aspects of their financial life. And when we put the cash flow analysis up there, which is pretty detailed, in the older generation, if the wife was in the room, her eyes would be glazed over right away. The boomer generation, because the boomer wife is so involved with her parents and the adult kids, is that she kind of almost comes out of her seat and looks at all the lines and kind of puts a face on that anxiety.
Right. The numbers make more sense when you're illustrating exactly what she's living.
Now, is this part because this is the first boomer generation, the first generation where women went to college? I mean, really,
Yes.
and in mass numbers.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Much more educated.
So they're
yes.
and they're also online checking
Correct.
everybody out. They're
Right.
doing the Google
Especially
research.
the younger ones, yeah, absolutely.
So engaged in retirement. I like the hybrid idea. I think a lot of people are going to be going that way. Friends with children. I'm friends with my children. I can't believe that the next generation isn't. I didn't even know that. They text me all the time.
Text all the time.
I
Yeah.
FaceTime my grandkids. It's just great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. The other thing about a boomer is that they're team oriented because when they were growing up, affluence was being emerged in the United States, right? And anytime dating back to the Renaissance, they've done studies on this, is that when they have emerging affluence, the emphasis is on team, the one for all mentality. So a boomer wants a team of advisors around him who help her save time and money, and in that order.
We come back from the break. We're going to do more on our expose on the boomer generation, my generation. I can hear the Who playing in the background right after the break. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to our second segment. Of course, we're with registered investment advisor and certified financial planners, Heather Coulter and Rob O'Dell. Rob, we're in the boomer generation, my generation. I have to say, I love this. We're the fun generation. We're all over it. We're not going to retire. The reason we're going to be forever young is because plastic surgery is completely progressed.
And you spend all our Social Security too, while you're at it.
Yeah, we're burning through all that. Yeah. All right. Well, walk me through this important thing. And of course, we've got a nice pic of Heather up here and her credential. Walk me through some of this and why this makes sense for an advisor.
Okay, so how do you approach a baby boomer generation? It's different than the older generation and definitely different than the younger generation. What is important to a boomer is, number one, your tenure in the marketplace, your history, your credentials, just like it was for the older generation. But like that car commercial in Cadillac from the previous segment, your American success story is important. They want to hear your story or someone on your team story. When I sit with a prospective client, I usually show our team picture, and I'll focus in on Heather here, and I'll tell her story. Back in 2001, I met Heather, hired her as an assistant, shared time with her with another advisor, and then I remember about a year later, Heather goes, I really like this financial planning stuff. We brought her on full time, took her through the College of Financial Planning, the CFP school, which as most advisors know is no walk in the park. And a few years later, she became a certified financial planner. And today, I'll put her up against anyone in terms of her competence and her ability to communicate, and then intuition is fantastic. So she's one of the best financial planners I know. When I say that in front of a prospective client, their head is nodding just like yours is now, and they kind of resonate with that American success story.
So endorsement's an issue. I mean, you just endorsed her, right? So when you're talking about endorsement or making sure people know their story, my generation wants to hear that.
Right. They resonate
They want to get a
with
comfort level. They want to get a trust factor built up, okay?
Right. The other aspect, everything they do, they're thinking about their kids. They're giving their kids money and they're paying their tuition in spite of their own retirement savings, but their kids matter. Whether they're buying a piece of real estate and building a home in a resort location, they're going to build, they're thinking this bedrooms will be for our kids when they come and visit. How many times have you texted your kids in the last week? Last 24 hours?
Well, you have it's a ton.
Yeah, it's friends. They like custom, creative solutions uniquely tailored to them. So as advisors, we need to make sure we can demonstrate that this is for their unique needs that they have, our recommendations meet it, and be able to communicate that. Now there's kind of a spectrum. You have late boomers and early boomers. Early boomers tend to be more optimistic, driven, have a little better outlook on life. The late boomers are known as the sandwich generation.
Yeah, the sandwich generation is going through very difficult times where they are caring for an elderly parent, and sometimes they actually have kids coming home from college, so they're right in the middle of a lot of competition for their time. So I actually wrote an article on that exact topic with the competing dollar and the competing time, and I just used an analogy of the airplane analogy, which as the air flight attendant always says, if the air pressure drops, you're going to drop the mask, and if the mask drops, you want to place it over yourself and before you aid a child or someone else that needs your help. So it's that same type of analogy. So you need to make sure you help yourself prior to helping someone else, or you're going to be a burden to them in the future.
So most of the time we say, save for retirement, let the kids get loans, because for some reason the boomers think they have to have their kids be debt-free when they walk out of college. It's like a mandate at their own peril. And so that's a very dangerous, because you could have some boomers get into retirement not prepared for retirement, and as Heather said, become a burden to the kids.
And you're confronting this. This is an actual crisis right now. I mean, we're talking about people that are sacrificing their golden years for the tuition payments of their children, maybe even grandchildren.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. Now, when you want to so-called close a boomer, you want to show optimism in your presentation and what you can do for them, how it's going to save them time and money in an optimistic way, because that resonates with them. Work hard and ask for their business. They like to be closed in the traditional way. At least the early boomers do. Later boomers maybe not as much, but they anticipate that from their advisors.
Okay, so a lot of this, especially being a boomer myself, an advisor, being in business for 30 years, I'm thinking, hey, there's not much here so far. I'm pretty good with that. I pretty much understand that. And I really appreciate it, I prefer to meet with people face to face. I'm really not a Skype guy. I'm not a go-to-meeting guy. I like to show optimism because I am optimistic. And I like to be able to, and I like to work hard. I'm built for work ethic. You don't go through parochial Catholic school like I did and don't come out of there without, good work ethic. So I understand my generation, but how is this for a generation like you upselling to my generation? Because you have a lot of characters that aren't like this. So how does that work for you?
Well, we love this generation because they're fun and optimistic to work with and deal with. It's a husband, wife, or a team.
Right, absolutely. But it's understanding. We have to make sure, because we're a different generation and because we think differently, we have to understand how to communicate with them and what's important to them.
Have you learned my generation? Do you understand me? Do you get me, as these say?
That's what they
We're
want.
sure going to try.
Yeah.
We're sure going to try.
But have you found that, like in your practices, you have a good percentage demographics of boomers in your practice?
Yes, it's an ideal client because they're very comfortable with our technique and our technology and our process.
But we have two partners who are boomers, and they're encore careers.
Yes.
So we understand that. We understand it very well.
Yep, so it's not even just when you're working with clients and you're trying to sell your service or close them. It's just out in the world. It's in the workplace. So you've got millenniums, you've got X-Gens, and you've got baby boomers all working together. You have to understand that they're thinking differently. The baby boomers are more the workaholics. Our generation we're all more about balance. So we're working at 9 o'clock at night, but we left the office at 3 because we wanted to get to the kids' soccer game. So things like that.
Your generation likes community. You like to have meetings. You love meetings. I don't know what it is, but you love meetings. And bringing them together. You love that sense of community.
Yes.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I can't do another meeting. So remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just go out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.